Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Silvas. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. I am your host, Amy Silvas. I'm the founder and principal of Silvas Capital. And we've got another exciting solo episode for you all today. And this one is going to be on a subject for your financial abundance that you may not have considered before, but for me is an important part of my financial abundance. And I want to make sure you've heard about it, you understand the facts and maybe often misunderstood pieces of information about this. So without further ado, I want to talk to you all about gold and silver today. I'm not talking about the kind that we necessarily wear as jewelry, but instead the kind that central banks hold, that some maybe you'd think of old-timey investors invest in, and that is bullion. Gold and silver bullion. Believe it or not, people still invest in that stuff, myself included. And I am not trying to tell you that you should invest in anything. This is just education, not financial advice. I'm just talking about what I do personally. But it's a subject that I find that many people haven't thought about, haven't considered, aren't necessarily educated on, but could be an interesting part of your personal financial abundance because it is for me. So let's get started. I think it was Alan Greenspan. Forgive me if I think I got this right, that called gold a barbarous relic, which is an interesting choice for the former Federal Reserve chairman. But I've heard all sorts of perspectives on why not to invest in gold and silver. It doesn't cash flow. It's a thing of the past. We've got crypto now. Poor gold is just dug up from the ground only to be minted and then put back underground for storage. But I tell you, like most things we talk about on the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast, there may be a role for this asset class in your portfolio. Again, I've got no dog in this fight. I don't have anything to gain by you focusing on gold and silver bullion in your investment portfolio. But I want to talk about why my husband and I have it in our portfolio. And again, zooming out to this podcast is all about finding your abundance, whether it's more time to spend with family, more time for your travels and your hobbies, whether it's the ability to give back to others in your family, in your community, charities and organizations that you care about, whether it's being able to make sure you've got time to spend time with family in need or family that you just haven't spent enough time with. There are all sorts of ways to find and cultivate abundance in our lives. And money, wealth, can be a vehicle, I would argue is an important vehicle to get you to those other abundance destinations. I'm not sure that most people think of gold and silver as money, but I'll tell you several reasons why I decide to invest in gold and silver bullion. And I'm not talking about the paper representations. I'm not talking about GLD and SLV, which are both traded on stock exchanges. Instead, I'm talking about the actual tangible physical coins, bars, etc. Okay. Why would I ever do that? Why? How come no one's talking about this? Why is this not a common topic? Well, several reasons. I'd submit to you that kind of like our conversation 2 weeks ago in our last solo episode about self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks, financial planners, Wall Street, they can't make money usually off of you and your family buying gold and silver bullion. They can for the stocks, they can for the ETFs, but not the actual tangible asset. So why would they recommend it if how they make their money is through assets under management and you've got your gold and silver stored in a Brinks vault, either in your hometown, across the country, or somewhere across the world? That's not in their best interest for you to invest your money there, right? But I'll tell you, by the traditional definition of money, gold and silver are money. And what we currently have in the world is fiat currency. Currency does not maintain a store of value over long periods of time. If you've been paying attention at all over the past 4 or so years since COVID, you understand that currency, the dollar, just as one example, has gone down in value quite a bit, right? What it's able to purchase has gone down in value. So the dollar does not fit the definition of money because it doesn't maintain its purchasing power over a long period of time. I'm not going to nerd out on you too hard here. I promise. But it is important that we understand definitions, right? We have to understand what something means. And currently, all currencies in existence in the world are just currency. They're not money. They are portable. They are divisible, meaning if I have $10, I can divide it and get 10 $1 bills. Portable. I can, pick them up and carry them around the world with me. So portable, divisible, fungible. $1 in my pocket is the same as $1 in your pocket. A unit of account. $1 is $1 is $1, right? We understand what that means. It's a fixed thing. So fungible, portable, divisible, but maintains purchasing power over a long period of time is the difference between currency and money. And if you look at what 1 ounce of gold buys today in 2024, it's the same amount of goods and services as it bought 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. That's what a store of value means. So I hear on the news, gold's gone up in price. Has it? Has gold gone up in price, or has the dollar been devalued? Has the yen been devalued? Has the renminbi been devalued? Has the euro been devalued? We are so used to thinking about what our currency will buy us as opposed to what the actual purchasing power is. So we think of, it's $100. It is $100, but as we know, over the past 4 years, what $100 can buy us over time can change. So all this is to say, some people, myself included, consider gold and silver as a hedge because they are the only things that fit all of the definitions of money. Think about wheat grains, not very portable. It may disintegrate. It may be tough to carry across borders. It may not be uniform. It may not be fungible. Diamonds, not fungible, right? One diamond is not going to be the same as another diamond. They have different, the 5 C's? Cut, clarity, color. You get it. So keep racking your brain and you'll find that nothing fits the definition of money like gold and silver do. So why would I own that? Well, it doesn't produce cash flow, which, as you know, is something I really love. It's something that's incredibly important to me. But if a central authority called the Federal Reserve has the ability to create as much currency, as much dollars as it wants, that's not within my control, right? That's an external entity. So what I love about my gold and silver is it's an inflation hedge. It's insurance against that because the federal government can't create more gold and silver, right? Yes, gold and silver are mined and there can be more that's created, but it's quite expensive. It doesn't happen at as fast of a rate as Jerome Powell's turning on the printing press. And it generally keeps up with or is even less than population growth. So it maintains its purchasing power over long periods of time extremely well. That's an inflation hedge. That's a hedge against, God forbid, the dollar collapsing. which people say, oh my gosh, Amy, look at that tinfoil hat on your head, the dollar collapsing, get out of here. This is the world's reserve currency. Okay. Hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, I'm certainly not cheering for it. But every currency in the history of mankind has gone to zero. It has collapsed. I would be incredibly naive to think that the dollar would be the only exception to that rule. In fact, since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, which, by the way, the Federal Reserve is a private entity. It is not federal. It does not have reserves. The value of the dollar, the purchasing power of a dollar, has gone down by around 96%. Okay, this all sounds nuts. But allocating a small portion of my portfolio for my financial abundance as insurance, as a hedge against inflation, allows me to sleep well at night and gives me a sense of security for a second reason, because gold and silver have no counterparty risk. So what does that mean? Counterparty risk means the value of gold and silver isn't dependent upon something else. It is not an asset on my balance sheet and a liability on someone else's. It is not valued based on any external factors other than the fact that gold and silver, are money. Counterparty risk is a big deal. Counterparty risk exists in real estate. It exists in stocks and bonds. It exists in many other asset classes. So again, as we think about diversification and creating the abundance that we want, so we can have time freedom to be work optional and not be a slave at our corporate jobs, own our own time, be able to spend time as we wish with our children, with our family, with our loved ones, enjoy our hobbies and live life to the fullest. For me, having assets in different asset classes that have different properties, different reasons and ways that they hold value and maintain value is imperative. And that leads me to my next point of gold and silver bullion are not correlated to other assets in my portfolio. That's the definition of diversification for me, right? We talked about that before, about what does diversification mean? And that may mean something different to you. But for me personally, I want assets that go up and down in value, not all at the same time. If everything's going up and down at the same time, I'm in trouble for myself, for my financial abundance. You may have a different perspective. But gold and silver are not necessarily correlated to the stock market, are not necessarily correlated to real estate, are not necessarily correlated to commodities. So that's a big difference for me. Helps me sleep well at night. So we've talked about an inflation hedge / insurance. For me, that's what gold and silver represents. We talked about lack of counterparty risk, and then we talked about diversification and the fact that gold and silver are often non-correlated assets. Liquidity. This is cool too. I can go almost anywhere in the world and use gold and silver in exchange for goods and services. Now, you could probably argue that that's the same for the dollar right now. Will it be that way forever? I don't have children, but would it be that way if I did have children? And if I were to pass on and give a legacy to my children of these gold and silver coins and bars, I think that would be the same for the bullion. It wouldn't be for the dollar necessarily. It's interesting to think about, right? It really is. This is not discussed in college, on mainstream media, or even by financial gurus necessarily. But the ability to go anywhere in the world and be able to exchange gold or silver for services or goods, and for that to be a pretty safe bet for decades or even hundreds of years into the future, I think is incredible. I once heard Ron Paul say, you sink a dollar to the bottom of the ocean, let's pretend it didn't disintegrate. And in 100 years, you go pick it up and you're like, all right, it's $1. what the heck does it buy? I don't know. How excited am I about finding a dollar? But if you find gold and silver at the bottom of the ocean, it buys the same amount of stuff as it did 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. That's value. That's a store of value over a long period of time, universally recognized across the world. Powerful stuff. Have you ever thought about having multiple streams of income? Instead of relying on just one stream of income where you're trading your time for money, how would you like to free up more of your time and live a more abundant life? As a listener of the show, you're invited to attend one of our upcoming trainings where I'll give you an inside look into how you can add passive income and get all the other perks of recession-resistant real estate investing without the headaches of being a landlord. We'll also be sharing some hidden mistakes to avoid and the criteria I personally look for when evaluating potential investment opportunities. To reserve your seat for free, go to silviscapital.com/webinar. Again, that special link to reserve your seat for free is silviscapital.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the training. And now back to the show. So for myself, gold and silver bullion are not a massive part of my portfolio. They're a small percentage. Again, kind of as I would think of as insurance. If I were to buy personal liability insurance, umbrella insurance, I'm not looking to spend all of my cash and invest all of my money in insurance per se as a hedge of protection, but it's there. It's most certainly there as a part of my well-diversified portfolio. And again, these aren't paper representations. These are actual gold and silver bullion. So what do I buy? I tend to be more heavy on the silver side for several reasons. And again, just financial education. I hope you all go down an incredible rabbit hole with some of the resources I'm going to provide you in the show notes, and you can determine what's best for you. But for me, I am more heavily invested in silver than gold for the following reasons. The first is, not only is silver a monetary metal, meaning it is money, it's also an industrial metal. It is used in computers, cell phones, photovoltaic cells, sometimes medicine. It has a lot of uses above and beyond just being a monetary metal. So it's used up and it can be tossed aside, as it often is. Hopefully people recycle, but they don't. And there's a whole bunch of silver in our landfills, meaning that the above ground supply of silver is constantly diminishing, if you can believe that. So yes, it's mined, absolutely. But because it's utilized and discarded, not only is it in high demand for industrial uses, but the actual availability of it decreases over time. Think about just basic supply and demand. That's important. Also, there's a historic gold to silver ratio. And I'll tell you what, if you go look that up, I'm not going to tell you right off the top of my head because it's fun to go look. Because if you're a visual learner, charts can be really interesting. But there's a historic gold to silver ratio based on the ratio in which gold and silver come out of the ground when they're mined. And that ratio in terms of price in American dollars is wildly out of whack. Silver is wildly undervalued as compared to gold. Or you could say gold is wildly overvalued as compared to silver. But from studying this extensively for 15 years, it's very clear to me that silver is undervalued in dollar terms. So that's the other really cool thing to look at is what silver and gold are priced in currencies across the world can vary, can be different. And I won't go too far in depth here, but the other cool thing is that silver is far more accessible in terms of purchasing price than gold. I think if we see more inflation coming, which I think there's a distinct possibility that we may return to high inflation, people in the United States are going to be naturally drawn to precious metals, to monetary metals like gold and silver, but silver will be far more obtainable for the average American, therefore demand will go up. As of today, what is today? May 11th, when I'm recording this, silver is around $28 an ounce. That's without the premium. You usually have to pay a few bucks in premium, but this is just spot price. The spot price of gold is over $2,300 an ounce. Not many Americans have $2,300 just hanging around. $28 an ounce for silver sounds a lot more attainable. So the fact that silver is an industrial metal and is utilized for industrial purposes above and beyond just monetary purposes, I think is extremely important. I think the fact that it's affordable for the average American, and I think that there will be more inflation, higher inflation coming down the pike. And this is what Americans or people around the world will turn to if inflation returns and we have a dollar crisis. And the fact that the gold-silver ratio is far, far out of whack. Silver is undervalued. For me, makes me feel very bullish on silver, but I own gold as well. For all of these reasons, I am excited to talk about and give education around why I personally own gold and silver bullion, what I personally do. There are several incredible resources out there that I would highly recommend you take a look at. Again, educational purposes only. Education is what we advocate here on the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Guide to Gold and Silver by Mike Maloney. Incredible book. Incredible book. We'll put the link in the show notes. The Creature from Jekyll Island. If you really want to get deep into this topic, similar to inflation, I think I recommended this on the inflation episode too. It will help you understand the structure of the global monetary system, how the rich protect themselves and protect their investments. So that's an incredible book as well. I'll put both of those in the show notes. And Mike Maloney also has an incredible video series on YouTube called The Hidden Secrets of Money. I'll link that as well. Just make sure you understand that paper, gold, and silver are not the same thing as physical gold and silver. Paper can be manipulated. People can short sell it. The ETFs, if you read the fine print, they don't necessarily have to hold the amount of physical precious metals as they say, or as the valuation of the metal in the market. Sounds a little convoluted. Again, not appropriate for me to go through all of these details necessarily. And paper representation of gold and silver are correlated to other paper assets. Paper correlates with paper, right, in terms of performance. So if you're someone like me looking for diversification, then that may not be your best bet because paper will correlate with paper in terms of performance, whereas physical gold and silver is a diversification play because it often doesn't go up and down in value in tandem with other asset classes. Gold and silver bullion are part of my financial abundance. They're a part of that vehicle that protects against the downside risk, possible dollar failure, currency failure, super high inflation. That's just as important to me as earning a return on my investment, as growing my wealth. All of these fall under that category of financial abundance. Again, as the vehicle to spend my days as I wish, with whom I wish, where I wish, for however long I wish. I hope you found this episode as interesting as I think this topic is. It is a different take. Many people thumb their nose at gold and silver bullion, but I don't want you to be someone who isn't informed. You may read some of these books and watch these videos and say, this isn't for me. Perfectly fine. I at least want you to have the ability to study and get information, become informed, and then you can make a decision. If you don't know that these topics exist, you don't get a choice. The choice is already made for you. So I'm handing over the baton. I'm handing over the empowerment to research and do what fits you best. Thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. I hope you have a fabulously abundant day, and I really appreciate all of your support of the podcast. This has been so much fun, and I can't wait to continue to add more value to you soon. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Silvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.